Hi everybody, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead back again, and it's time for our story. So we're still reading out of City Bear's Adventures, and if you remember yesterday, it was Lights, Camera, Action was the name, and so they did some filming, but at the end, at the party, there was a huge mess where Coco had got the refreshments, the cakes and cookies and punch. It was spilt all over, a horrible mess. But Alfred pointed out that Coco had not broke his chain. His collar had been cut, and they realized that Coco had been kidnapped. So we're now reading Chapter 12, A Race Against Time. Kathy and Priscilla opened the door and peeked in. DJ motioned for them to enter. Come on. Alfred blurted out what had happened. Kathy shook her head and exclaimed, "Oh, DJ, who would steal your cub?" Pris cried, "Nell Zabas, that's who." For a moment, DJ considered that. I don't know. He's been threatening to take Coco, claiming that Coco was really his. But somebody was trying to buy the bear from Boot Maloney, and I don't think Nels would do that. I don't think so either. Then who? Pris demanded. I don't know, DJ replied miserably. I don't know. Could be almost anybody who's greedy, Alfred said. Everybody's heard about the movie company's offer to buy your cub. That could mean a lot of money to whoever owns Coco. DJ shook his head. Wasn't a real offer. Mr. Zerka, the animal trainer, just talked about the possibility. But it doesn't matter now. We've got to find Coco. Pris cried, "In this storm?" Alfred explained proudly. Hero can trail Coco unless rain or snow wipes out the scent. So far, we've only got high wind, and that won't stop Hero. But we need to get going. Sam Dillon stuck his head through the door from the cafeteria. If you boys are talking about going out in this storm to look for that bear, forget it. DJ protested. "Aw, Dad, it's dangerous," Dad interrupted. "Besides, your cub will probably be home in the morning." That's true, the cub does know where he lives. "But he's been stolen," DJ exclaimed. Paul Stagg pushed the cafeteria door open. His big body filled the frame. "What's this about your cub?" he rumbled. DJ, Alfred, Kathy, and Pris all began explaining at once. The tall preacher held up his hands and asked DJ to talk. The boy quickly reported what had happened. Alfred held up the cub's wide leather collar to show where it had been cut. The two fathers nodded and talked quietly. DJ's dad finally spoke. "We agree there's no sense going out in this weather. We'll have to wait for daylight." The wind died at dawn. That means it stopped being windy when the sun was rising. But the clouds were very flat and gray, stretching from horizon to horizon. "Snow sky," DJ mused as he pulled a cover around him and walked to the kitchen window to look out. He turned back to his dog. "Hero, we won't have much time. Let's go wake Dad." Dad was already pulling on his boots. I'll make a quick breakfast for us, and then we'll start looking for your bear. Better check on your grandfather first thing." Grandpa clicked off on the bedside table radio as the boy entered the bedroom. That means he turned it off. "Just heard the weather report. Heavy snowfall expected by mid-afternoon. I hope you find your bear before then." "Me too. You know, Grandpa, I've thought a lot about something. Whoever took Coco probably wouldn't have gone far in that windstorm. Too dangerous." DJ sat on the edge of the bed. "How you feeling, Grandpa?" "I felt better, Lord knows. But I've been praying that I can lick this thing and see you graduate next spring." The boy took the old man's brown spotted thin hand in both of his. "I'm counting on that. Now Dad and I have got to start hunting for that bear. My bear, that is. Dad's fixing breakfast for all of us. Is there anything else you need before we go?" The old man was silent a long moment while his pale blue eyes looked steadily into his grandson's. "What I need is something nobody except the good Lord can give me. Time. More time, especially when it seems like it's running out. I guess a man thinks an awful lot when he's laying here in bed weeks on end, wondering if he's going to make it." The boy was uncomfortable with Grandpa's words, but DJ knew that someday he would lose Grandpa, even as Mom had been lost. DJ leaned his head against the old man's whiskery face. "I love you, Grandpa," he said softly. "I love you too." There was a moment of wonderful warmth when neither person spoke. It was the first time either of them had ever said those words. Sometimes the boy ached to have his father say what Grandpa had just said. Finally, DJ said, "I couldn't sleep last night because my mind was doing pinwheels." "Oh? What about?" "For one, I've been selfish about Dad. I remember what you said about there comes a time when a person has to let go of something, take only memories, and go forward from there. Grandpa, I didn't say anything. Grandpa didn't say anything. So DJ added, I hope you'll understand, but I also had to give you up to the Lord. The boy stopped. He couldn't say the words. Grandpa said them for DJ. I understand. Sooner or later, I'll have to meet my maker. But I'm hoping it's not going to be for a long time yet. I'm glad. DJ squeezed his thin hand. It's so hard to think about. Part of growing up, DJ. Face facts like a man instead of a boy. I guess that's what's happening, but it hurts. I'd rather stay a boy. We all would, but there's no stopping time. Guess not. Mr. Zerka, the animal trainer, made me realize I'd be going away to college in a few years. Dad'll be alone except for you, unless could you honestly let him marry the widow woman and her be your stepmom? Especially since you'd have a new stepsister who ain't never been real nice to you? I'd rather not have Pris, DJ admitted. I'd rather not have a stepmother either. But maybe, for Dad's sake, it's time for me to take my memories of Mom and go on. And maybe that'll help Dad do the same. The old man was silent a moment before he asked softly, "Have you told your father yet?" "Not yet." "He'll be pleased, DJ, and he'll have a little surprise for you this morning, too." "Oh? What?" "Guess it's okay for me to tell you, though maybe he'd like to do it for himself. You see, your dad came in here after midnight and told me he couldn't sleep either." "I didn't hear him." "He wanted to talk quiet like, I guess. Anyway, he asked me if I thought he could live a Christian life." "Really?" "Yep, sure surprised me." "What'd you tell him?" "Told him the truth. Nobody can live the Christian life by himself, but with the Holy Spirit's help, anybody can live for the Lord. So just about the time the wind died down, your father bowed his head right where you're standing and prayed to receive Jesus into his life." DJ had a very hard time believing that, but wasn't that what Mom said would happen one day? And hadn't everyone at church been praying for that? Grandpa seemed to read DJ's mind. "You know what the scriptures say, though your sins be as scarlet," scarlet is red, "they shall be white as snow." God's love does all that, DJ. It covers all our transgressions. Transgressions are sins and where we've done things we shouldn't. Your dad's life can prove that. Later, when DJ was riding in the pickup with Dad towards Stony Ridge, there was no sound except the truck's motor. Finally, Dad cleared his voice. "DJ, there's something I got to tell you." "What's that?" Well, last night I was born again." DJ looked up at his father, bundled up against the heater in the cold in the heaterless old pickup. He said, "I'm glad, real glad." "That makes 3 of us now, Dad. First Grandpa, then me, and now you. Mrs. Higgins will be happy too." "I hope so." "Dad, I've been thinking. If you want to get married again, well, I want you to." Dad jerked the steering wheel and the pickup veered sharply towards the shoulder of the road. "You mean that?" "I mean it." For a moment, Dad drove in silence. Then he reached over and took the boy's hand. Dad's grip was so strong it almost hurt DJ. When Dad spoke, his voice nearly broke with emotion. "Thanks, son," he whispered. Paul and Kathy Stagg were waiting at the community clubhouse with Alfred. Dad had told the preacher about his decision for Christ, and the big man grabbed Dad in a big old bear hug and thumped him on the back, patted him on the back. Dad laughed and smiled and playfully hit Paul on the shoulder. When everyone was calmed down again, the attention turned back to the problem of finding Coco. DJ said, "If it was Nails who took the cub, I can't figure out how he got Coco to go with him. That bear's not too fond of Nails." Alfred used a mittened hand to push his thick glasses up on his nose. "I found the answer. Look." The skinny boy bent and pointed at something shiny and red outside the community clubhouse back door. "Strawberry jam." DJ leaned closer. Of course, Coco would follow anybody for strawberry jam. "Well," Dad said, "let's see if your little hair puller can pick up the trail." Hero quickly understood he was again playing a game of hide and seek with the bear. When DJ pushed the scruffy little dog's nose close to the back step, Hero let out a sharp bark. "He's got scent," DJ cried. "Go on, Hero. Find Coco." The hair puller's short stub tail began twisting, and he sniffed loudly. Moving slowly away from the cub house, Kathy and Alfred joined DJ in a series of excited exclamations as the dog headed out for the curb. Instantly, everyone was quiet, waiting to see if the dog would lose the scent there. If he did, that meant Coco had been put in a car and driven away. There was no way any hound could trail a car. Suddenly, Hero veered away from the curb and started to go up the sidewalk towards the mountains. "Go, Hero! Go! Attaboy! Find Coco!" DJ cried. The little dog got into the spirit of the game. He announced his progress with loud, joyful bawls instead of the usual sharp barks. For about 20 minutes, everyone followed Hero as he occasionally made a lose and then found the scent again. Finally, Kathy cried, "That's the end of the sidewalk. And yet he's still heading up into those mountains. There's nothing up there. Do you suppose he's making a mistake?" Alfred sounded scornful. "Not Hero. He knows what he's doing." DJ heard a car coming up fast behind them. He turned as a sheriff patrol unit pulled into the curb behind them. The deputy jumped out and faced the giant preacher. "Paul, I've been looking all over for you. Your wife fell down the steps and hurt herself. She's probably going to be all right, but they took her to the hospital." In seconds, Kathy and her father were riding back down the hill towards town in the sheriff's car. Since there was nothing DJ, Dad, or Alfred could do for Mrs. Stagg, they kept up the search for Coco, with Hero leading the way. The little dog was straining at his chain, his deep baying voice announcing the trail was warming up. He's getting closer. Yet there was nothing ahead of them but the rising Sierra Nevada mountains and the threatening flat gray snow sky. Dad spoke. "There's no place ahead where anybody could hide that bear. Are you sure that cub isn't heading out by himself to find a den and sleep the winter away?" This thought struck DJ. He swallowed hard and stopped to look at Alfred. The skinny kid was hunched up on inside his heavy coat. His nose was red and his glasses were partly steamed up from breathing into the icy mountain air. But Alfred shook his head. "Remember, we're all pretty sure we've seen boot tracks a couple of times." Dad removed his stocking cap and scratched his head. "Just the same, I'd better go back and get the pickup. It's going to be a long walk back, and if that dog doesn't find the cub pretty soon, it'll be too late because the snowstorm's going to break any time." In a few minutes, Dad was out of sight. DJ glanced at the heavy, dark sky, which seemed ready to burst with snow. Suddenly, Hero threw up his head and bawled loudly. DJ exclaimed, "He's winded the cub!" The scruffy little hair puller made a sharp right turn and dashed away from the roadway, pulling hard at the chain. The baying was steady and excited, leading up to the treed sound. DJ exclaimed, "Hero's got him lined out. In a minute, Hero We'll be looking at him. Alfred stumbled and almost fell because his hands were thrust deep in his coat pockets. DJ, there's nothing out there but the school. Exactly. And because it's Christmas vacation, nobody's there. Except whoever stole Coco. Right. Come on, let's go. The trail led across the schoolyard, around in the back of the auditorium, and past the buildings to the bus shed. Hero's baying was steady now, one fast chopping ball after another. He ran to the side metal door and leaped upon it, his nails scratching frantically on the slick metal. "We've found him!" Alfred exclaimed. "Hero's found Coco." DJ dropped the dog's chain and tried the door handle. "It's locked." "But at least we found the cub." A voice behind them said, "No, you didn't. All you found was trouble." DJ and Alfred spun around. Hero growled, his hackles rising. That's the hair along the back of his shoulders and neck, and his upper lip curling back from his fangs. "Nails!" DJ cried. "You stole my bear?" "My bear, you mean?" The older boy thumped a short, curved crowbar in his gloved left hand. So he's like this, thumping a crowbar that's made of metal. "Make your mutt back off, or I'll give him a headache." DJ reached down and patted Hero. "It's okay. Quiet, quiet. That's a good dog." Alfred asked, "Where's Coco?" "Inside, sleeping off all that junk he ate last night." DJ snuggled Hero close to his left leg and faced the older boy. "Sleeping? At this time of day? You sure he's not sick?" Now, DJ saw a flicker of emotion across the older boy's face. Nels licked his lips. "Well, he's been kind of quiet since last night." "Let me see him," DJ demanded. The cub was curled up in a large metal oil drum that had been tipped on its side. It smelled as if it had held sawdust for sweeping the oil drippings off the bus shed floor. Hero dashed into the drum, began playfully growling and biting the cub. The bear did not move. DJ dropped to his knees, pulled the dog out of the barrel, and felt the bear. The cub still did not move. Alfred cried, "He's dead! Nels, you've killed Coco!" That's the end of chapter 13. I think for tonight, I'm going to read the last chapter of this book tonight. So chapter 13, A New Home for Coco. DJ examined Coco for a long moment, feeling and talking to him. Slowly, DJ stood up and said, his heart still beating, but very slowly. Alfred explained, "We've got to get him to the vet." DJ shook his head. "No. Nels wanted Coco enough to steal him. Let him take Coco to the vet." Alfred yelled, "DJ, are you nuts?" DJ frowned. "How about it, Nels?" The older boy hesitated. "I don't want no bear that's dying." DJ persisted. "You always said Coco was rightfully yours, isn't that right?" "Sure, I knew sooner or later I'd get him. My dad kept trying to buy the cub, though, through Boot Malone. But you were so stubborn." DJ interrupted. "You stole him. You take care of him." Nels backed up, lifting the crowbar. "Now hold on a minute. I want that cub to sell to the movie people, but he's no good dead. DJ pointed to the cub, which hadn't stirred. I'll give you a paper right now that says I'm giving up all rights to this bear. No, you don't, Nels yelled. Alfred pulled frantically at DJ's coat sleeve, but DJ didn't seem to notice. Nels shook his head hard. I don't want no dead bear. DJ shrugged. Well, suppose he recovers. Nels frowned, then quickly bent and stuck his hand into the barrel. While Nels' head was turned away, DJ looked hard at Alfred. DJ shook his head very hard, but briefly. Alfred blinked, not understanding.